The topics we're going to be brushing up on specifically for this animation are shape preservation, which we've talked about in previous 2D animation posts, and also joint timings. Hey, want to be reviewed? Just send your animations in the Professor Goo review channel in the Discord. Each stream I'll be going over one animation, which will be randomly selected from that channel. If you happen to be in stream that day, we'll go over it and maybe even jump into a call. If you want to watch these streams live, go to twitch.tv/DylanGoo. Hey Goos, welcome to Professor Goo Reviews. Today's review will be an animation submitted by Mimicry, or Mimicry Velsharon, if I pronounced that right. And as you can see here, we have a hand rotating pose, which is, I mean, just this animation is so hard to do. You have a full rotation of a very complex geometry, hands, which I love. We love hand poses. We're going to talk about hand poses today. And so first things first, shape preservation. Now this is a really hard thing to get right. 2D animators have it hard, man. So when we have this rotational thing here, what I would recommend, like I've recommended in the past, is to draw a cube. Cubes are your friend. Cubes are your friend. You know why cubes are your friend? Because you can rotate them super easily. So rotating a cube is something that you know, anybody could do. Anybody could do it. You just rotate it, you know, you just go to the next frame, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna bring it over here, you know. And like when you learn how to rotate a cube, you have a much better understanding of sort of like how, you can see here, how sort of like geometry and stuff will typically interact with you know, itself, I guess, when it starts rotating perspectives. And that's the hard part. I just totally tilted that, didn't I? Anyway, it's easy. So what you want to do is you want to practice rotating cubes in 2D. And if you can rotate a perfect cube in 2D, then you'll realize that everything is just cubes, right? Okay. Let's try to draw a cube on this fist here, shall we? All right. So the rotation starts around here. I'm going to go ahead and draw a cube here. This is pretty simple. I mean, we have basically just this facade here. Cool. We drew a cube. We animated the cube. The cube's rotating. It's looking pretty good. We have a couple of frames missing, but that's fine. So you get the idea. Now let's talk about why this cube is going to help us. Now, if we take a look at a couple things, we can see exactly how does the cube fit in this in this like model. I guess how does the fist fit within the cube? Because technically speaking, if you look at like this side view, for example, you know that this knuckle, oh god, this knuckle here should be within the bounds of the cube, right? So if the knuckle is supposed to be within the bounds of the cube, then it should not be touching the cube here, right? So that's a bit of an issue. So this is one of the problem frames that we want to tackle, which is essentially what we should do. Watch this back real quick. Yeah. So this knuckle actually spurts out a bit too far, and this actually should be around here. Should be around here. And this is just to get the preservation consistent throughout. And likewise here as well. So I think this would be probably closer to here. I've actually drawn this cube out a little bit too far. You'll notice another thing. The thumb is here, right? And then it moves here. But look what the fingers in the back do, right? A couple frames later, it's basically in the same place. So the fingers in the back don't move at all, whereas the thumb in the front moves a lot. What does that mean when something in the back moves barely a little bit and something in the front moves a lot, right? What does that mean? What does that look like to you guys? What does that look like to you? That's distance. That is parallax, right? That's parallax. This is what you see when you have like a tree in the background, right? And then like a tree in the foreground, right? The tree in the foreground moves a lot more when you rotate it. So the illusion here, which is not intentional, I don't think, but the illusion here is that the thumb is like not touching the fingers. It looks like the thumb is floating off the fingers. It looks like the thumb is closer to the camera than the fingers are, and the fingers are much further away, which is not possible. It doesn't make any sense, but it does feel a little bit like that. So they don't feel connected, right? We know that the thumb is touching the index finger here for sure, and then suddenly over here, it's touching the ring finger, right? So that's a little strange. Now, how do we fix this? Well, it's a pretty simple fix. It's basically just trying to get the fingers in the back to move with the thumb. So you see, I believe, that this shape looks a little bit more natural. And I'll make this a little easier to see. There we go. Red. So now it feels a little bit more like it's rotating, right? These fingers are actually sticking to where the thumb is relatively. you know, it's rotating just as much as the thumb, that'll feel a lot better. It'll feel a lot more geometrically accurate, right? And I would say the same thing for this pose here. As we go past this rotational axis, you'll notice that originally, you know, this knuckle actually lines up sort of like with this corner here, more or less. And so it should probably line up ideally with this. Yeah. So this actually should probably look closer to this, right? Like if that was the skeleton of the finger, right? It'd be over there instead. So this knuckle is actually a bit too far to the left. So we actually want to draw that line here, right? Where it's more like that, you can see. So this is going to help a lot. Once you get a cube, an understanding of how cubes rotate, you'll have a much better understanding of how geometry rotates in general. And then we go into the finger unfurling. So this is actually an interesting topic because it's sort of more of like a finessing thing, more of a polished thing. I think your finger curling animation is great. When you unfurl, I think you have that a little bit here, which is good, but everything unfurls at the same time. And I'm actually wondering if we can add some in-betweens there and also figure out how to apply that exact same unfurling thing here that you've done a good job here with that, noticing how like the base joints are unfurling first, right? The three joints, out of the three joints, like the base unfurls first, and then you know, something like that, and then something like that, or something like that, right? I think the timing there is good. The problem, of course, is that it's not applying to the thumb right now. So we want to apply it to that as well. First things first, I think we should probably have just an in-between here where these are unfurled and they're good. These are totally straight. That'll look great. And then just a slight curl on these two fingers here. And you'll have a really, really nice hand pose. Now the thumb, let me see if I can draw at the same time. And that'll just give us a little bit of variety here as we get to the last pose, which will basically just be this, right? So this last pose that you've done is pretty good. I want to see if we can get the fully unfurled thumb. But yeah, there you go. So I think with those small changes, you can get something feeling really natural. You can kind of see this, how this pose right here feels really, really relaxed. It feels nice. It feels like a good intermediary transitionary pose, which feels really good. And that would just add that much polish to it. And when we have the rest of that unfurlment here, that'll just give sort of a payoff almost to the animation. Yeah, this is a difficult task, but you've done a great job with it. I really enjoy this first half, especially because that looks great. And so when you get to these rotations down, you want to practice rotating a cube, practice rotating the fist based on the knuckle lines and other types of geometry lines you can follow, get that shape preservation down, and then practice just like a couple of these like transitory poses where you can kind of get the interpolation down a bit better, and you're like, oh, it'll be more satisfying if we, you know, unfurl the fingers via these joints, and for example the thumb, and then in more sort of like stages, and then also have these desynchronous movements as well with these other fingers here. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it, Mimicry. Yeah. So reference cubes, landmarks, and transition frames. I think I got it. Heck yes. Heck yes. That's pretty much it.